Hey, and we are back
We are
in the museum,
surrounded.
surrounded by action figures
Mm-hmm.
and dolls.
Where are the dolls?
All over the place, you got dolls.
They're not dolls. They are action figures. Action figures. Although the Marla Gibb is a doll. I do have a Marla Gibb.
Anyway,
I deny it. It's not dolls.
it's all about your perspective.
I suppose.
And
Take it up with Hasbro. They coined the phrase.
you wanted to come down here today and
Did I?
drag me away from my beloved
What were you
Dark
doing?
Shadows
Oh yeah, we've been watching Dark Shadows.
to talk about dolls and action figures
Mm-hmm.
and vehicles and whatever else that
Yeah.
adults now collect.
Yes, adults collect many, many things. And it isn't easy.
Oh,
It
yeah?
isn't easy. Well, there's a lot of things to consider, and one of the biggest things to consider is cost.
Funding,
Yes,
ends,
it can get
money,
yeah,
stacks, cash,
uh-huh. What
bread,
else? Bread. I need my bread, man.
Skrilla.
What's wrong with you?
It all boils down to the almighty dollar.
Get my scratch.
Mm-hmm.
But it can get expensive. It can be a very expensive hobby if you get carried away. Even
Yeah.
if you don't, it can be a very expensive hobby. You could just focus on one thing
Yeah.
and be deep in it as far as the financial aspect of it, and especially when you're drawn to several different things, which you see there's a big variety down here, especially between the two of us.
Mm-hmm.
There's a big variety, and you can get pulled in a lot of different directions. And vintage stuff is expensive, but then so is a lot of modern product. The prices, you watch the weekly roundup, and I'll tell the prices if I know what the retail is going to be. And a lot of times people are shocked. They're shocked by how expensive it is. Who expects to spend $300 to $500 for a sixth scale action figure? Who expected a an Optimus Prime? Remember?
Mm-hmm.
What was it? 3,000 the
Yeah,
retail?
almost $4,000.
Yeah, it was insane. And it's like, oh my God, but they only do it because they know someone's going to pay for it. And don't worry, that discussion is coming. I've alluded to it a few times that I'm going to talk about that trend in the adult market, and people want me to do it, but I know I'm gonna make a lot of people real butthurt when I do. That's the thing, because there are those that will defend it to the death if
Defend what?
the high prices of modern action figures, if they're really invested in a certain company. Usually,
Mm-hmm.
it's a loyalty to a company brand, and they will fight a tooth and nail if you contradict their perspective. But anyways, yeah, it's very expensive, and that's the subject here is budgeting and
Mm.
how important it is to have a budget to be able to do all of this and to try to stay focused. Now, in my case, it's kind of difficult to stay focused because I've got a finger in so many different pies. There's so many different lines that I'm collecting or that I have collected, and very few of them are complete. It's not easy to complete lines. It really isn't. Vintage or modern. Modern because it never freaking ends. How
Mm-hmm.
many waves of Marvel Legends are there? How many waves of Star Wars Black Series are there? What are they on, 41 now, I think? Because we showed wave 40 not too long ago, and there's more coming. It just doesn't stop. how many waves of Masters of the Universe or different varieties. And we've talked about that before, companies that make different series of the same figures
Yeah.
over and over again. So, but if you get split, like I'm split, I've got some of these are complete, some of these are not. My Mattel Space 1999 9-inch are complete. My McDonald Land are complete. Knickerbocker Sesame Street is complete. But there are several lines that are not, that may, I don't know if I'll ever finish it. So it's hard when you have a lot of different things that you're tracking. Sometimes it helps to just focus on one item, one brand, one genre, if you will. Like, I'm gonna keep going with $6 Million Man, Kenner $6 Million Man, until I finish the series. But some of those are so expensive or come up so rarely, you could miss out on something from another set you're working on because you weren't paying attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, especially when you're dealing with vintage items and the rarity of certain items, and particularly since with vintage it's actually rare, not artificial demand rare, like with modern stuff, you kind of have to watch a bunch of different things or keep track of a bunch of different lines to see if you have the ability to catch something when it becomes available, and have a budget set for when it does. And there's two aspects of that. One is a monthly allowance, if you will. Like, you could set a monthly allowance based on your own personal income. Everybody's got a different income base and a different amount of disposable income, if you will. Like, let's say you can only spend like $200 a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's the most I can spend and still be realistic and pay the bills and put a little aside and, whatever, right? But staying within that $200 budget, it's not always that easy. Unless you are just really strict. And some people are. Some people, they've got the willpower to stay in that budget. And, there's a benefit and a loss to it. You could miss out on things. Or if you don't spend it, you could overlap it to the next month. Or you could borrow against the next month. But then when you do that, are you going to honor that next month? If you spend $300 this month and then next month you only have $100 to work with, are you really only going to spend that $100? Or are you going to say, the hell with it, and spend $2 anyway, and borrow against to the next month? But it is important to try to set a budget so that you don't end up eating dry cereal for the next few months, living off ramen pride, so that you can afford all of your great toys. I've seen people do that. I've seen people run themselves into the ground buying stuff up. And you have to be positive that what you're buying is what you actually want, because then you'll end up spending money on things that you don't need or want, and then the only way that you can recover that is to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. You have to try to sell it off.
I know for me, what I do is I put a budget on the type of item. Like, for an example,
mm-hmm.
a Funko, I will not spend more than a certain dollar amount.
Okay.
Lunch boxes, I won't spend more than a certain dollar amount. No, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's one I've been wanting forever, I'll wait until that dollar amount comes to within the means. Right now I'm on Masters of the Universe.
Ugh.
I refuse to spend over a certain dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of thing helped me out a lot. Then, for me, and this is just my method. Yeah, I might miss some stuff. I might have to wait a little longer. But then it's like, okay, I'm not willing to spend $60 on a Funko. I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, so you could do it that way, and then also I put a limit on every month. I might buy 2 figures a month, and that's it. You know, and don't go over that. And then that's kind of hard to do too if you watch auctions. So I try not to watch a lot of auctions because sometimes, you know, you met your two, you're like, okay, I got my two, they're within my the price range I set for myself, and then an auction come up for something, then now you got to be like,
Yeah, I know.
do I dig down into that? Because sometimes it's a figure that won't come up again,
Yeah.
or is a figure that's normally way outside your range and it's on auction. Like I had one that came up a couple weeks ago, never comes up on eBay. Finally it comes up, and then 3 different people has it on auction, and they all have it for this low price.
For now.
Yeah, I actually won one of them, and I was so shocked because this figure never comes
Three
up.
different figures, she means, not three of the same.
No, it was 3 of the same.
It was three of the same?
It was 3 of the same figures that never come up,
Oh, I was thinking of a different set of auctions then.
and then they finally came up. The all at the same time within the same week.
Okay.
But I mean, it's things like that you can do for yourself. Like I said, set a limit for each one. Like, you know, Masters of the Universe is going to be expensive, but how much are you really willing to pay? You know, are you willing to pay $500 for a figure? I'm not. So
And that gets tough when you get into a range where all the figures are starting to hit that point.
yeah, and now I'm in the area where within the Masters of the Universe, I already bought the cheap ones.
If you can call any of them
Yeah,
cheap.
you
Yeah.
know, so now everything is over $500. So, you know, you have to think about it that way, I believe. That's a method that I use.
Yeah, and that can be tough too because, like, Brave Star is an example. I brought up Brave Star a few times. There's some exclusives in Brave Star that are so stupid expensive it just doesn't make sense. And when they come up, they go for an incredible amount of money. And even if you lose it, you've got to have a limit to
Yeah.
how much you're willing to spend on it because you got to get that money from somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are some pieces, or just recently from the Pop and Fresh series that I got over there, the Pillsbury Playthings is what they're called. Uncle Raleigh came up on auction in the box, and Uncle Raleigh is like the granddaddy Grail, and I know that's an abused term, Grail, in collecting. Everything's a freaking Grail, everything's rare. This is something that you don't see on auction, but if it's in the box, maybe every 2 or 3 years it might turn up, or more. Sometimes you see it usually loose and played with pretty bad. This one was in the box, and it's like, oh, how much can I afford to invest in it? But there are people out there that'll knock their brains out to get it, to finish the set. And when the auction, you know, when the dust settled, it was damn near $1,000 that it closed out at, because some of these are pretty rare. I can't do that right now.
Yeah.
You know, so had to let it go. Maybe, you know, if I keep my eye open, it'll pop up again in the future, and I'll have better luck. Or sometimes you had a budget set and you invested what you expected to invest. You know, okay, I've already spent about as much as I want to this month rather, and then something pops up that you may not see again at that price.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what do? Like right down here. And somebody asked me to do a showcase of that one too. I probably will. See the Grey Gory, the little bat down there?
Oh.
Grey Gory by Mattel. That's a pretty rare figure. And it's in the box. And I got contacted by somebody and they were like, hey, you know, would you be interested in a Grey Gory in the box? I'm looking to get X for it. I know what it's worth, but I only want such and such. And I'm like, oh my God, that is a really good price, without getting into that, because I don't like to talk about prices or whatever. But I'm like, oh no, I've already spent everything that I planned on possibly spending this month, probably too much. Anyway, probably already went over, and then that comes along. When's the next time you're even going to see a Gregory in a box? Let alone at this price. I went ahead and did it anyway. I went ahead and did it anyway. I blew the budget because I don't know if or when I would see another one.
Yeah.
And that's hard. Sometimes you can't do it. I was in a position where I was able to pull it off, but sometimes you can't do it, and you have to let things go, and it's not easy when you sit there and you ask yourself, God, when's the next time I'm going to see this again?
Yeah.
And you see that sometimes at auctions or at shows. You go to a show and you see something and you're like, oh, come on. What are you going to do?
Yeah, so the main thing is sit down, look at the money you bring in.
Yeah.
After you pay your mortgage, all of your utilities.
Yeah, your rent.
Yeah, you buy your food, you pay all of your insurance and everything else.
Yeah. All your necessities.
Yeah, and then you put some money aside in your savings account, because you should.
Yeah, don't just take everything that's left over and say, oh, there's my toy budget.
Put some money aside for savings, and
Rainy
then
day.
you say, okay, this is what I have left. If it's $100, it's $100. If it's more, great. And then you work with that, and then you say, okay, what can I do? Okay, nothing's coming up this month as far as toys or shows, so I'll put it aside for next month. Now next month you have $200. Some auctions might come up, a toy show. Another thing that I do is I make a couple extra dollars on the side that I get paid in cash, and I put that away for toy shows.
Yeah.
And
cash is king in the toy show.
Yeah, and the sad thing about Georgia, it's not a lot of toy shows that come up that often.
Yeah.
So it builds up. You can do that. Figure out, is there something you can do on the side that you can make some cash off of?
Even if it's some type of like flipping, if you will. And I've done that. If I buy a lot, I'll cherry pick it. This is what I want, this is what I need, and then I can turn around and sell the rest of it to recover what I invested. And a lot of people do that too. Or they resell, or they trade stuff that they didn't need or want.
Yeah. So the main thing is to look at what you have left, and then also you got to count in birthdays, because if you're married or got kids, you got to get birthday gifts.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you might have holidays that's coming up that you have to, vacations coming up. So you have to look at all of that and then pull your collecting budget out of that.
Yeah.
Or you're collecting money out of all of that. So it's something you can sit down and really think about. And then again, like I said, my method, I look at everything. Care Bears has a limit. I won't spend a certain amount for a Care Bear figure. Funko has a limit. Lunchboxes, but I'm done with lunchboxes. But when I was getting that had a limit. Lunch trays got a limit. Everything has a limit. I'm not going to pay over a certain amount. And now I'm on a buy 2 figures a month limit.
And it helps to be sure of the value of the item that you're trying to get to, or whatever it is that you're getting. Know what they are worth, because especially when an auction is closing, it's easy to get carried away.
Yeah.
And you frequently see that. I've seen a lot of stuff go out, and it'll go out crazy. It jumps way over what it should be worth, and you're like, wow, how did that happen? Well, a couple of people started battling at the end because they got tired of looking for that item. They've missed it a couple of times, and they're like, not this time. I'm getting this, and they'll start battling with somebody, and they'll end up spending $100 more than it's worth, or more. You never know. And then, especially if you're dealing with an online auction, you're dealing with eBay, you got shipping to deal with afterwards, and now
Taxes.
taxes. Taxes is killing it on eBay.
Yeah.
Taxes is making eBay miserable. You know, if you spent $1,000 on something, let's say, you bid on something that's $1,000, you're gonna end up spending at least $100 in tax, or around that much, plus the postage.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting stupid.
Yeah. And also shop around, because eBay is not the only online place out there. Macari
Yeah.
sells stuff. I've bought figures from there. Um, a bunch of stuff from there. And also Etsy.
Uh-huh.
Etsy sells action figures. So, places like that. So just shop around
Yeah.
and see who has the better deal. Also on Macari, and I've said this before, you can make offers on everything. Unlike eBay, on eBay only sometimes you can make an offer. But
Yeah.
on Macari, you can always make an offer. And sometimes the people come back with a counter.
Yeah.
So you never know, just make a deal, make an offer.
Sometimes things turn up on Craigslist. It's rare anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason it's rare anymore is because it's turned into a shitstorm for scammers.
Yeah.
If you're selling on Craigslist, you get hammered with people trying to scam you.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't like to list things there anymore, but things do still turn up from time to time. Conventions are getting better for certain things. It's hit or miss with shows, because online auctions, the world's coming to you. With a convention, you're going to one little area, one little piece of the world. You may or may not find anything there, and that makes it difficult. And you should know what you expect to pay for things when you get to a convention. But also, you can sometimes get better deals at conventions now, because you don't have to deal with tax and shipping. So even if it's the same price as the eBay price, because you see this often, some of these guys aren't willing to work with you very well. That happens. You, at the very least, like I said, you don't have to deal with shipping or tax. So if it's $100 on eBay and he wants 100 for it, you're still saving like $20 all in, dealing with getting it shipped and paying all the fees and everything, paying the taxes and everything. And sometimes the dealers aren't very cooperative because of however much it might have cost them to set up, travel time, expenses, fuel. Did they have to get a hotel room? It can get very expensive for them, and so sometimes they really don't want to compromise too much, but a lot of them you can work with to help to get that price down. And you should have a budget for the shows too.
Yeah.
That's another reason to work with cash. If you have a certain amount of cash that you bring to the show, that should be it. I know a lot of people, they go over and then they're tempted to start doing PayPal transfers. But try to work with what you have on hand.
Yeah. So anything else?
No, it's just not easy. It's the truth. It's not easy, because you can't have everything. You want to have everything, but you can't have everything, and you have to try to be realistic about that.
Yeah. And another thing I just now thought about too, something I do on eBay a lot is, if I'm looking for a certain figure, I'll check what else the person may have, because maybe they have other items that you need for your collection. And then you can contact them and say, hey, I see you got these 4 items. Would you bundle them together and, include one shipping and then sell it for this price? And a lot of times they do it, so you can get a deal like that. Just ask them to bundle it up, take off a couple of dollars, combine the shipping, do all that, say it real wordy, and sometimes they'll go for it.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, so that's the way. Shop around. Don't pick. Because I know when I first started doing eBay, the first thing I saw I would buy. I didn't. I didn't shop around. Sometimes I got a good things. A lot of times I didn't. Now I've learned to shop around, read descriptions,
She's
do all
learning.
that. So
And you can do that at the conventions too. You go to the shows, at least all you can do is ask.
yeah,
They're going to say yes or no.
yeah,
It's as simple as that. It doesn't hurt to ask.
yeah. Anything else?
No, I guess that's enough. But
Okay.
yeah, just a few words on the idea of budgeting for your collecting needs.